Morning, Michaela. How are you?
Fine, and you, ma'am?
I'm very fine, thank you. While we are waiting for Takuta to try and connect, let's just recap about yesterday. What did we learn about yesterday? If you can remember anything, let's just do a recap.
I remembered confusing words
Confusing words,
in
yes.
English.
Any confusing word you remember?
Yes, and the confusing words were about the same pronunciation but different meaning and different spelling.
Wonderful. And in mathematics?
Mathematics was addition with carrying.
Okay, thank you. Today, we are going to learn about friction. We're going to learn science and technology, okay? Yes. Today we're going to learn science and technology. We are learning about forces and magnets. Today we are going to learn about friction. Does this word ring a bell to you? Have you ever heard about the word friction? Anything that you know about friction that you can tell me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What can you tell me about friction?
Friction is something where I don't know how to pronounce it.
How to pronounce it is whereby, do you have an example? Maybe even if you can give an example, it's still okay. Welcome, Takuta. Are you able to hear me?
Hello?
Takuta,
Yes.
can you hear me? Today we are doing science and technology. We're going to talk about forces and magnets. Specifically today, we're going to talk about friction. I was
Yes.
talking to Michaela.
I can hear you.
What can you tell me about friction, Takuta? Anything that comes to your mind about friction? Michaela is still thinking she needs a word to help explain. Anything you can tell me about friction? Anything, Takuta, you can tell me about friction? Can you hear me? Michaela, why is your head on your... Oh,
I'm thinking, ma'am.
oh, you're thinking. Okay, okay. Okay, let me assist you. Friction, it is the heat or the force that is made when you rub two things. Okay? So I want us to rub our hands. Can you rub your hands together? Let's do an experiment of friction.
Yes.
Rub your hands together. Mr. TC, let's go faster, faster, faster. Let's rub our hands together because we want to do and show what is friction. What can you feel as you are rubbing your hands together? Mr. Takuta, are you also...
I feel heat.
Yes, Michaela?
I feel heat.
You feel heat? Takuta, is there anything that you can feel as you are rubbing your hands together? Takuta, can you hear me? Please raise your hand if you can hear me, Takuta. When you rub your hands together, you produce a force or heat, which is called friction. So it is that energy or that force that is produced when two things are rubbed together. For example, if you get two stones and you rub them together, people of the Stone Age, they used to use two stones, they would rub them together and they would produce fire, okay? That force of rubbing two things together is called friction, okay? So today I want to talk about friction. We're going to talk about friction, what are the positives of friction, or what are the advantages that we get from friction, and also we're going to talk about what are the negative effects of friction. There are some things that we're going to explain today. There are some terminology words that are related when we talk about friction. The first one is called positive. When you talk about something positive, we're talking about something that produces a good effect on you. That's something positive. Friction has some positive effects on us. Positive effects are things that are good to us. Friction also has some negative effects. So they can ask you, what are the negative effects? Something negative is something that produces something that is bad to you. Something that is bad to you, it can even something that can affect you in a very bad way. That's something negative. And then another terminology is advantage. The word advantage means something good, something positive, something that brings out the best in you, something that brings out the best in something. That's an advantage. Another terminology is disadvantage. You might be asked, what are the advantages of friction? What are the disadvantages of friction? It is the opposite of advantage, which is something that is bad, something that friction produces that is bad to us. So we are going to look into the positives or the advantages and the negatives or the disadvantages of friction. Okay, I'm going to start on the benefits or what we call the positives of friction. Friction, that heat that is produced, it is the one that helps us to balance when we are walking. Remember that as you are walking, you have your shoes on, right? As you are walking on the road, there is that friction that is there between the tarred road and your shoes. That friction enables you to balance so that you don't fall down. That is a good advantage or positive advantage of friction. So the moment when you are trying to balance on the road, for you to walk nicely and not fall, that is a force of friction. Friction is the one that has enabled you to be able to walk up straight and balance yourself on the road and not to fall. It's a positive and advantage of friction. Welcome, Sia. Bryce is connecting. And also another benefit or positive use of friction is that friction removes debt. Bryce, can you hear me? Bryce, if you can hear me, please, can you wave your hand? Okay, today, Bryce, we are talking about friction, okay? We are talking about friction, we are doing science and technology. I was talking about the positives or the advantages, which are the good things about friction, right? We said friction is a force that happens when you rub two things together. I gave an example that if you rub your hands together, there is some heat that is produced. That is friction. So friction is not only done when you rub hands together. It also happens, I said the first part about when you are walking on the road. There is that friction from the tarred road and your shoe. It enables you to walk up straight and not to slip and fall, okay? The second advantage of friction that, remember, all of us, we bath, right? Is there anyone who doesn't bath here? If you don't bath, anyone who doesn't bath, we all bath, right? Yes. So when you put soap on your, towel, right? When you put soap on the towel and then you start scrubbing yourself, there is friction between the towel and your body. That is the one that enables to remove the dirt, okay? So do you see another positive effect of friction? The first one helps you to walk so that you don't fall. The second one, it removes your dirt when you are bathing. The third one is brushing, when we are brushing our teeth. When you brush your teeth, there is that friction between your toothbrush and your tooth. That friction enables all the dirt to come out, okay? That is another advantage of friction. Friction is the one that enables cars not to skid, okay? And it enables cars to brake faster and not to hit you. Remember when you're driving a car on the road, okay? Friction is one that enables that car not to skid or slide back and not for it to enable it to brake, okay? Yes. So friction is very important. It helps us a lot in our daily lives, okay? Did you all hear me about the positive effects of friction? Did you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
And Sia, did you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Now we're going to talk about the negative effects of friction. When you talk about friction, remember we say that there is that heat that is produced between yourself and the shoe, right? When you're walking on top of the tar and your shoe, there is that friction, that heat. What do you think will happen to your shoes if there is that heat exerted on your shoe as you are walking? What do you think will happen to that shoe? Is it going to last? Sia, is it going to last? I cannot hear you, Sia. Is it going to last? Did you put your audio on, Sia? It's not going to last. No, it's not going to last, okay? So what the negative effects of friction is that friction, it damages our shoes, okay? It causes wear and tear. That's why when your mother buys you a shoe in January, maybe after 2 weeks, you're going to cry again, oh, mommy, I don't have a shoe. My shoe is tattered and all because of that friction. You're always walking on the road every now and then, okay? That's why if you're always walking around, if you're a pedestrian, you're always walking, your shoes are not going to last because there is that friction between the tarred road and your shoe, okay? And also, if you look at the friction is the one that, let's look at the machines and the vehicles. Our mothers and fathers have these cars that they use. The car and the vehicle is not going to last for a long time. The car is not going to last for a long time. Why? Because there is going to be that wear and tear with the car and the machine, okay? You find that the car is no longer working anymore. Mama has to take the car today to the mechanic because the car is no longer working, because there is always that friction, okay? The friction is the one that, the friction makes that car to break down easily, or it makes the car not to last for a long time. That's why if you buy a car today, you always have to go in services every now and then, because there is something called friction. I can see we are joined by Samantha there. Samantha, if you can hear me, please wave your hand. So you find that there is that friction. Do you understand? Okay, so now that I've talked about all this friction, who can tell me, who can define friction for me? Who can tell me what is friction? Anyone who can tell me what is friction? Miss Michaela? Justin, how are you? Can you hear me?
Fine, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. We are talking about friction. We are talking about friction. So if you want to say something, you can just put your hand up and then I'll tell you to talk, okay? Michaela wanted to tell us to define friction for us. Michaela?
Friction is the cause of when you rub two things together.
Yes, you rub two things together. And when you rub two things together, can we all rub our hands together, please? Let us rub our hands together. I can see Sia is not rubbing his hands. Sia, let's rub our hands together. Rub your hands. Faster, let's go faster and rub your hands together. It's cold today. The moment you rub your hands together, you feel something. What are you feeling, Sia? What are you feeling? Justin, what can you feel as you are rubbing your hands together? What are you feeling?
Heat.
Yes, Justin? Heat, yes. That heat is the friction, okay? Yes. And I was saying, who can tell me one positive effect of friction? I talked about any positive effect of friction that you know. Anyone who can tell me, what do you think is good about friction? Anyone who can tell me one positive effect about friction? One positive effect about friction? What do we get from friction? What do we benefit from friction? Anyone? Yes, Justin. Justin, is your hand up? Michaela, is your hand up? Yes, Michaela?
Yes.
You can tell.
Ma'am,
Yes.
one positive effect of friction is when you walk on the road, the friction will help you balance.
Yes, it will help you to balance. There's someone else wanted to say something. Is it Takuta?
It's
Yes, Takuta. Takuta? Okay, I will explain once.
when we rub. I was
Yes,
saying
Takuta? Yes. Samantha, Samantha, I can hear you.
I'm fine.
Okay, we are talking about friction. Takuta is saying something there. Takuta, if you want to say something, you raise your hand, okay? Yes, Takuta?
I was saying friction when we rub our hands, it gives us warmth.
It gives you warmth. Yes, thank you. And also, friction is the one that enables us to get fire. Do we all know the matchbox? When you want to produce
Yes.
fire, you have to make sure that you rub those matchsticks on that part of the matchbox and fire is produced, okay? That is friction. And also I said, friction gives us balance to walk. When you are walking with your shoes on the road, there is friction between your shoe and the tarred road. It enables you to have balance. The second one is that we all bath, right? how do you think?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, how do you think all that dirt is removed from you? There is friction between your towel and your body. When your towel is rubbing your body, or when you are rubbing the soap on your body, there is friction, and it enables that dirt to come out. Okay. The third one is when you are when you brush your teeth, you put your toothpaste, and there's that friction between your toothbrush and your teeth because you'll be brushing them, right? You exert a force. As you are brushing, you exert your force up and down, you go sideways, you go together, okay? That friction is the one that enables you to be able to remove that dirt from your teeth, okay? And also friction is the one that enables cars to move smoothly on the road and for them not to skid, okay? Because as the car is moving, that's why the car is able to balance itself as it is moving on the road, okay? That's the one that enables your mother to be able to brake easily whenever there's a car. Let's say there's a car coming in front of her, she's trying to take a right turn or a left turn, and then there's a car that comes directly, she'll just brake there. Friction enables her to be able to do that. Friction is something that helps us in our daily activities, whatever we do every day. We find ourselves using friction, okay? So friction enables us to be clean, it enables us to walk up straight and not to slip and fall, enables our mothers to drive their cars smoothly, to brake and stop whenever they want to. And also remember, we said friction also, it helps us to get fire, okay? Because as you are rubbing the matchstick, that matchstick next to the box, you're able to produce fire, okay? And the negatives of friction now, I said, remember that you are walking on the road, right? You're walking on the road on the track now and then. What do you think will happen to your shoe, Justin?
I did not hear. I did not hear.
Yes, Takuta?
I did not hear my connection.
Okay, I said, let's say you are walking on the road every now and then from January to February, you're always walking with your shoes. What do you think will happen to those shoes? Because you said there was friction between the shoe and the tarred road. What do you think will happen to the shoe? Is it going to last? Going to last?
No, ma'am.
It's not going to last. Yes, Justin? It is not going to last. Yes, because the shoe will end up tearing, right? You find yourself not having the shoe anymore. Yes, that's what makes our shoes not to last for a long time. There is no one who buys a shoe from January and wears it for 4 years. Is it possible for you to wear your shoe for 4 or 5 years? It's not possible. Why? Because that shoe is going to tear, okay? And what makes the shoe to tear is that friction, because there is that heat every now and then that is, okay? And also another disadvantage or negative effect of friction is that friction, it causes the breaking down of vehicles. How many times do our mothers go to the mechanic, call the mechanic every now and then to say the car has broken down, the car is no longer working properly, the car is not functioning well? It is because of friction, okay? So friction has its advantages and it has disadvantages. You might find yourself, they ask you a question, tell me what are the negative effects of friction. You look at these negative effects, how does it affect naked? And you can find, they can say, what are the positive effects of friction? Because it makes you to clean yourself up, yet to balance yourself when you're walking on the road. Okay? So is there anyone who has a question about friction? Anyone with a question pertaining to what we're talking about friction? Michaela, you have a question?
Ma'am?
Yes, Michaela?
Is a friction burn also not part of the disadvantages of friction?
Yes, a friction burn is also part of the disadvantages. Okay? It's also part of the disadvantages. Thank you about that. Thank you, Michaela. If you have something to ask, a question, or comment. So in our summary, who can summarize what we talked about today? Can I have someone to summarize? What did you hear today? What did we talk about today? Anyone who can summarize? Yes, Takuta? Takuta?
About friction. We talked about that friction is when you walk on the road. It's on the tarred road.
Mhm. Yes.
We talked about the
And
disadvantages of
it's a new
friction
that
and the
helps you to balance.
advantages.
The advantages and disadvantages of friction. Thank you. Takuza, you wanted to explain something? I'm coming to you, Justin.
And talking about that, I was saying we talked about today about friction, that friction is when we rub two things together.
Thank you, Takuza. Justin, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, friction is when we rub our hands together and it produces heat.
Yes, it produces heat. Anyone can give me an advantage of friction? Why is friction so good? What does it help us with? Any advantage of friction? Is Sia here? Siyabonga Makhulu.
Friction,
Yes, Takuza, I wanted to say something.
friction helps us to balance when we walk.
Yes, helps us to balance when you walk. Anyone else hear something before we close? Yes, Michaela?
Friction cleans our bodies.
Friction cleans our bodies because there is that friction force between the towel and your body. What about our teeth?
It helps to clean your teeth.
Yes, because there is that.
When you brush your teeth, there is a force with the toothbrush and the tooth.
Yes. Samantha? Samantha, you wanted to say something?
Saying friction
Yes.
protect our body.
Yes. Okay, I am going to. Justin, do you have something to say?
No?
Okay. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Did you enjoy today's lesson? Did you enjoy today's lesson? I can't hear people talking. No one is saying something.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, we enjoyed this lesson.
Yes. What about Justin, Mr. Bryce? Okay, I'm going to send homework related to friction, okay, what we talked about today. I hope you're going to be able to answer the questions. The homework or the assignment will be about what is friction, what are the positive effects of friction, what are the negative effects of friction, okay? We're going to continue this topic on friction more, okay, when we're going to meet again on Monday, okay? Okay?
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Yes, ma'am.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye. Please make sure you don't forget to write the homework, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay.